Today we read from Acts chapter 9, verses 19 to 31. You've heard of a U-turn, whether it's changing direction in your car and going the opposite way, or whether it's the government changing their policies. One of the biggest and most impactful U-turns in history must be this one made by Paul, or Saul, as he was then known by his Hebrew name. He's just had his Damascus Road experience, the blinding light, the voice, the encounter with Jesus, which convinced him that Jesus was, in fact, the Son of God, the Messiah, as his followers claimed. As a result, Paul performed the most incredible U-turn from being the foremost persecutor of the nascent church into its most powerful ambassador. Almost single-handed and certainly leading those who supported him, he evangelized the area all around the Mediterranean and as far as Rome, the center of the empire. In the process, he changed the whole emphasis of the gospel from being a Jewish sect or subdivision into a whole new religion with a majority of Gentile followers. It was an extraordinary achievement, and it started with a striking level of humility. He had to admit that he had been wrong, that the truth was even the polar opposite of what he had not only thought, but publicly proclaimed and acted on. He had been arresting and imprisoning Christians and was on his way to Damascus to seek out more. Hence, the nerves and anxiety and even fear that they felt about accepting him into their midst. This could have been a trick, a trap, to track down more of the believers and arrest them. It isn't easy for anyone to admit making a mistake, being wrong. But when it's done so publicly, and with such dramatic change of effect and behaviour, that does take real courage. He didn't slink off into a corner to hide his embarrassment and recover his dignity. He would have had a lot to learn about Jesus, but immediately he was in the synagogues proclaiming Jesus to his own people, the very ones he was effectively betraying, who had trusted him to put an end to this unsettling new movement. So he fell victim to the very persecution he had been leading, as the Jews of Damascus tried to kill him. And Paul had to accept help from the Christians and make an ignominious exit from the city in a basket. Undeterred, he returned to Jerusalem and sought out the Christians and persuaded them to trust him with the support of Barnabas. It's often said that a late convert is more zealous than a lifelong follower, and maybe that's true of Paul. His U-turn was indeed extraordinary. He spent the rest of his life tirelessly following the Lord he had denounced, spreading the gospel he had tried to silence, and building up the church that he had tried to destroy, and all because he was willing to admit, I was wrong.